Mastering the self creates a split personality, existent as the self and the one that masters the self. Here we're having a look at the approach to self-mastery as it now exists, and why we say that self-mastery can create a split personality. If one approach self-mastery within the starting point of mastering the self, then commonsensically you need to split yourself, because you then have a self and then you have a part of you that is in the process of mastering that self. For a master to exist, a slave must exist, as a master-slave relationship. So in this split of having a self that has to be mastered and another self that is mastering that self that has to be mastered, the self mastering the other self becomes the master, and the other self the slave that must abide by the laws, rules, and regulations of becoming mastered. So one can, for the rest of one's life, exist in a master-slave relationship in your own mind. Therefore, with regards to self-mastery, ensure that one tend to, with awareness, the relationship to words and their definition, to, within and as the process of self-change, not create separation and split personalities. Thus, for example, within Desteni, we have a look at self-mastery as follows. Not in the context of mastering the self or mastering a self, and that would be strange, wanting to master yourself or have mastery over and of the self. So self-change is a process within which the self is changing. Self is changing. Self is the one that is in the active, practical process, changing and transforming. Here does not exist separation or split personality creation. Thus, I would say that self-mastery comes from the fact that we've accepted and allowed ourselves to be slaves to our own minds, our own consciousness, such as thoughts and emotions, for example, being controlled by them. And now with self-mastery, we attempt and try to become the master, of our own selves and minds, when this is not in fact what the relationship should be like, because then self-mastery is more a reaction to the fact that we have been outmastered by our own minds or consciousness. And changing self with such a starting point would always then keep in memory that initial relationship. And so we create a competition in our own minds. Who's going to be the master of me? My mind or self? Or consciousness or me? So a proposed redefinition to consider is looking at the word master or mastering, emphasizing mast, being the mast of a ship. Thus, redefining mastering to self being the mast, the directive principle, the awareness within oneself, within and as thought, word, and deed. Changing the relationship from consciousness being the master or centralized control to self standing as the mast, the direction, the awareness in and as one's living in thought, word, and deed. Centralizing one's awareness in and as oneself and the body. This is then actual change and does not create a polarity of and as competition between two masters. Having two masters in the mind is not a good idea. Thus, it's to be the mast, the direction, the directive principle of who I am in and as thought, word, and deed, as awareness. To be and become this is and will be a process, because consciousness as ourselves has always been the MAST, the direction, the control of and as the ship, the relationship with and as ourselves and the physical body. And so it will be a process of changing the relationship from mind controls to self-directive principle. I mean, not creating a polarity of who's the master, but in fact establishing a stand of whether self-awareness is going to be the one that stand in and as the physical body, or the mind pirate taking over the ship, the relationships between self and the physical. We suggest investigating Desteni, the Desteni process, where we're in the process of establishing ourselves, our awareness, as the mast of the ship, of the relationship between self and the physical, to no more be controlled by the pirate or pirates of consciousness, being on our way to the treasure that is life, that consciousness for too long have suppressed. We will, in the next interview post, have a look at this analogy of the captain of the ship as the relationship between self and the physical, with seeing, realizing, and understanding that the process is changing and transforming self as consciousness into and as self as awareness.